kind of tools that we've been developing within the network. So in 2012, as I mentioned, the principle on national strategy were endorsed by G20 leaders. Last year, a publication summarizes the status in G20 economies, and we are now developing a policy handbook on implementing this national strategy, which will be finalized between this year and the next. If we look at the status of this national strategy in countries, we know that at this stage more than 45 countries have either designed, implemented, or even revised their national strategy, and I'm providing just a couple of G20 examples on these slides. So a national strategy is already implemented in countries like Australia, Brazil, India, Netherlands, New Zealand, Portugal, Slovenia, Spain, UK, and the US. Of course, there are many more than that. I'd just like to flag that some countries like Australia, New Zealand, or even Netherlands very recently are in the process of revising their national strategy. So they already had one for at least 3-5 years, and now they are in the process of looking at what has worked and what hasn't worked. So these are really important countries to follow, especially when you are in the process of developing your strategy. Then other countries have advanced development of national strategy, and this is typically the case of Russia and other countries such like mine. France is actually preparing a national strategy as I'm speaking. So quite often these national strategies are integrated into broader policy measures aimed at reinforcing also consumer protection and financial inclusion. So this is the map showing where countries are placed in terms of development of national strategy, with countries in red, which have already implemented a national strategy, countries in dark blue that have advanced level of national strategy, and light blue countries that are only considering a national strategy. I'd like to end my presentation by really focusing on youth and telling you that it's really a key target audience for a variety of reasons. First, of course, there is a general and global recognition of the importance of youth. To mention my own organization, in 2005 already, an OECD recommendation was mentioning the fact that financial education should start as early as possible and in schools. And since then, we continue working on this issue. I have actually with me the latest publication on financial education for youth. And in school, I have a few copies if you're interested. But also at APEC and G20 level, there was a recognition, as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, of the need to address youth needs for financial literacy. And I have to add that in all of the countries that have implemented a national strategy, youth is a target audience. So all of this recognition is not coming by chance. There is a clear rationale for that. First, we know that financial education is a long-term process, so it's better if you start early. Second, if you look at research that are being conducted in the UK, in the US, in Australia, it seems that building capacity, changing behavior happen if you start early, and probably are really more easy to inculcate before the age of 7. So 7 is quite early. Second, we know from evidence that targeting young people works. We know that from impact assessment in countries like Brazil, Italy, or Germany. I will move quickly just to highlight that we are also interested in youth because there are clear needs, because the financial landscape is getting more complex. Sergei Storchak already mentioned some figures. Yes, young people get into debt from very early age. They are less financially skilled, as shown by a number of surveys, and they are worried, and they want to learn. So that's really important. Sorry, just trying to... just wanted to flag that without policy intervention, young people will unlikely be able to become well financially equipped, just because parents are not necessarily themselves well equipped and have sound financial habits. Second, financial literacy is correlated with socioeconomic status, meaning typically that if you're coming from a family where parents do not have savvy financial habits, it's unlikely that children will have some savvy financial habits. So it's really important that there is policy intervention so that financial literacy skills are more evenly transmitted to all of the children in a country. There are some good news about financial literacy for youth. We'll have more evidence, more data in the very near future. So at the OECD, you may be aware that we are assessing the competency of students 15 years old every 3 years through the Program for International Student Assessment. From 2012, a financial literacy component has been included in this PISA program, and 18 countries, including Russia, have participated in this exercise. The result of this first assessment will be released on 9 July this year in Paris. And of course, this will provide very interesting evidence and data. First, it will be a cross-country survey on the level of financial literacy of young people. It will provide a benchmark as well as proficiency scale in financial competencies. It will also provide a relation between financial literacy competencies of these young people and socio-demographic status. It will also provide some correlation between their financial literacy skills and their skills in reading and numeracy. And also, it will provide some very interesting information on financial literacy competency and access to money and financial products of young people. Ultimately, it will help us identify further effective approaches and practices in order to improve the level of financial literacy of young people. Just some next steps. So 9 July will be the release of this first survey, but we are already planning a new exercise in 2015, and I'm very happy to say that Russia will participate in this new exercise in 2015. And this survey is currently being used by the OECD in order to develop international core competency on financial literacy for youth. So I wanted to finish by a key recommendation that were mentioned in the G20 publication I mentioned earlier, with 4 key recommendations for all of us. Is to continue to collect evidence. Evidence is absolutely key in order to improve the delivery of financial education. Reinforce the coordination. Of course, this has been one of our key recommendations in the past, but we believe there is room for improvement. Sustainability of financial education is extremely important. We know it's a long-term process. Unless the resources and the mandates are long enough, it will be very difficult for financial education policies to make a difference. And I know that this is what Russia is really attempting to achieve, really trying to bring more synergies between financial consumer protection trends and financial education. Thank you very much.